Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Trans-Tasman Round 4 review. Hi, I'm Paul and I'll be your host this evening. And I'll be honest with you folks, I was a bit knackered and I thought, you know what, if nobody joins me, I'm just not going to bother this week. I'm going to take this week off. But about 10 seconds before we had to go live, Stephen Harris stepped in. So how are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. A little bit tired after what's been a big weekend. But, gee, Paul, I couldn't leave. Listen, we can't let down your Patreons, mate. They want all the updated information about all the rugby and the TTRS rugby, mate. So I just had to support you, mate. But hey, don't mind if we do a pretty quick show this evening, if you know what I mean. If you're that tired.
Yeah, we might. We might. We'll see. Now, so look, the reason you're tired is you've been doing a bit of driving, haven't you? And a bit of work yesterday. First off, point of order. Where were the post-match interviews? I didn't see any of them on New Zealand Sports Radio. What happened to you, sir?
Mate, to be honest, I ended up doing 3 commentaries in a row. There wasn't much time between each commentary, and I've got to admit I was quite shattered after I'd done the third one. I basically had to race off to see an auntie, get showered, get changed, and be back at the dinner. And there wasn't, to be honest, there wasn't a lot of time. Quite disappointed that I didn't get to post too many photos, but there will be a lot of photos that come out on the Northern website around about next weekend. But I'll talk a little bit more about it on Tuesday night when we jump onto the driving wall at 8 p.m. on Tuesday evening, Paul.
Oh well, we can hear the stories then about you catching up and having photos with Portia Woodman and her dad. For example, did you get the first dance with her or something like that? And it wasn't disco at the event. I don't know. We'll have to wait until Tuesday to find out.
I would have gladly asked her for a dance. Then she would have probably said, "And you are." But I will say I did ask her for a photo with her dad because the childhood legend, and she did say only if I'm in the photograph. So hey,
yeah, there you go. So look, I'd say great for you to looks like you caught up some great people, and a great time was had by all up there for Northland's centennial celebrations. Obviously, folks, well, not obviously, but it is the 101st year because last year was their centenary, but unfortunately, due to COVID, obviously, they've had to delay things a year. So well done to Campbell and the crowd up there, putting order on a great weekend's worth of celebrations up there. There's more events to come, I believe, in golf days and things like that. So do keep your eye out on that on that one, and obviously we'll get some. We'll get the stories as to who drinks too much at these sort of celebrations, which rugby players misbehave themselves, all from Stephen on Tuesday evening on the Driving Wall show. Been a quiet weekend for me from a rugby point of view. I guess I headed down to Papamoa to watch Papamoa FC versus Auckland United in the Kelly Shepherd Cup, the second round of that, which is the women's sort of equivalent of the FA Cup here in New Zealand. And the Papamoa had a tough time of it, losing 9-0, better than the 20-0 scoreline we saw. But well done to Papamoa, testing themselves out against one of the top sides in the country there in the football. I didn't, but because the Chiefs played over in Australia, I didn't actually head over to that game, and also because it's Queen's birthday's weekend, there were no Premiership games in Thames Valley yesterday, so I didn't get to any of those games either. So so quiet weekend of rugby on the rugby front for me, a bit of a rare one. But we kicked off on Friday night with the Crusaders versus the Force over there. And look, again, that I think we all came into this one thinking, look, big win for the Crusaders. 20 odd points was I think 25 points was the margin that I put down for this one. Now, you and I had a chat straight after the game with our post-match reaction to this one. So, folks, for all the hot takes, you can go back and check that out on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But I think something we can probably say about most of the games this round is that we are seeing more fight from the Australian teams, and they keep themselves in the games much better this week.
Yeah, and I think on Friday night the key was getting away to a good start, and they scored an excellent try through Tony Pulu, and I think you'll probably find, it just gave them a little bit of confidence with the start. But overall, you're very much right. I think we've probably gone into some preconceived ideas, especially after the first few weeks, that these will all be one-sided romps. But it's fair to say that it's taken the Australian teams a few weeks to get used to the physical contact, the style of play which the New Zealand teams bring to this particular competition. But listen, it's actually been pleasing. If we can see these gradual improvements across the board from these Australian sides, you can still see there's a difference in skill level, Paul, and it's just the little things that hurt these sides. And of course, thinking back to Friday night, and that's just the sort of thing, good segue into how the Force actually let the Crusaders back in for their first couple of tries.
Yeah, and this is it's one of it's just how clinical the sides can be. There was a whole bunch of comments around that that the Crusaders had rested players, but when you looked at their side, sure, David Havili wasn't playing, but then again, his replacements were also first choice on this one. And the only real big difference from a normal week was that they didn't have Richard Mo'unga playing at 10, and we saw, I guess, what he brings to this team as far as organisation and spotting an opportunity as well. And so perhaps, they did take a little while to get going. But it's a turnover ball, spun wide to Enor, who kicked ahead. Mate Ali chases it down and scores. So that was obviously, from turnover ball, very quick on there. Jordan, who perhaps didn't have had a bit of an on-off game, didn't he? And he got stepped by Pulu for that first try. Got taken on the outside, but also scored 2 tries. So perhaps a bit like Geordie Barrett a few seasons back, where we're all kind of like, really good player, but has a mistake in him. And I think we've got the same here in Will Jordan, but he just doesn't seem to be taking the same flack about it that Geordie did.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I was just thinking to myself, Paul, 3 or 4 weeks is a long time in rugby. If you can think back to almost a month ago, we were thinking to ourselves, out of the three players we just spoke about, who could you possibly look at fullback if you include D-Mac in the conversation? But for one reason or another, they all seem to have maybe gone off the ball. In the case of D-Mac, he's gone into a 3-week suspension. But you'd have to say, Geordie, and we'll get to his performance, but also along with Jordan, definitely nowhere near their best over this weekend.
Yep. To say he wasn't at his best, he still scored 2 tries in this one, and show that he is he's a great attacking force there. Look, we had a couple of tries disallowed, one for knock on in that first half. I think one of the things that came out through this weekend is we had disallowed tries that looked at things that in general play would not be what's the word I'm looking for? Would not be looked at. But just because it's a try, it gets looked at, and therefore it ends up being called. Which I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing, but it's just something else we have to be aware of, particularly in the last game. A couple of obstructions would never be called during general play, but were looked at because it was a try on. Look, the Force had 61% possession, 62% territory in this one, but one of the things we talked about was just one of the things we didn't talk about is that gain line thing. The Force made more clean breaks than the Crusaders, and yet ran 270 meters for 129 runs. The Crusaders 329 metres, so an extra nearly 60 metres more, but of 86 runs, 45 less runs for an extra 60 metres running, which just shows you, that they're just finding those gaps, finding that weak shoulder, and getting over that gain line, which the Force just weren't doing, even if they were holding onto the ball.
Yeah, exactly. I think we spoke about that. If you can hold on to the ball for long periods, but if you're getting in behind the team, I think you'll get a bit of pay dirt out of that. But if you're just going side to side to side and getting nowhere, it's only really a matter of time before you're going to turn ball over at breakdown. And that's probably always been the issue for the Western Force. Even if you think back a week ago against Hurricanes, same problem, holding on to a lot of ball but going nowhere.
Yep. The Force were reduced to 14 men at the end there, not because of the card, but because of injuries, and had used all of their replacements. Some that I think that I've talked about before, that perhaps coaches shouldn't be automatically using all their replacements. Perhaps they should be keeping someone spare for that kind of situation. We had a strange situation where there was a turnover, the time was up, and suddenly Godwin decided to kick deep. And you're like, what? What are you doing? He's kicking the ball away. But there was no one back there. Oliver Feller won the race and denied the Crusaders a losing bonus point. A try bonus point in this one, with that score finishing 29 to 21. I mean, the result was always going to be a Crusaders win, but well done for the Force for keeping in touch.
I think so, Paul. We want to see reasonably tight games. I don't think anybody gets any joy out of seeing one-sided contests. I must admit, I probably spend a little bit too much time looking at a certain site where if Australian teams get beaten by 50, 60 points, they're moaning about the standard of the Australian sides. And if you get tight, close games, they start moaning about the official, especially if their team is involved. All of a sudden, it gets too close, and the official is the issue. I was once given a bit of advice by a very good coach who's no longer with us, coached Auckland B for many years, Tank Herring. And he said to me, listen, we can blame officials all we like, but if you go out and play a game and you've got 70% activation, you're in the zone in terms of winning a game. If you're 80, you should basically be really pleased with that. And if you're 90, you should win every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And I said, why not 100? He said, no rugby team plays the perfect 100% game. And he's dead right. And if you think about it, sometimes we come down on officials, but if you look at the number of mistakes that players will make during the game, they're not often spoken about.
Yeah, players make way more mistakes than the officials do. That's very much. But the officials get called up when they do make a mistake, whereas players, he dropped that pass. Yes, well, that happens, or he didn't spot an overlap, or whatever. Those sort of things. They don't get the scrutiny around those is not to the same level as it is for the officials. Moving on, then we have the battle of the colours, or battle of the primary colours. I mean, it was kind of like how specific do you want to get? Looking at some of the hashtags that were being used for this one, with the Reds versus the Blues. Lots of turnovers from both sides early on in this one. It's a bit kind of messy to get us going. The Blues clearly taking this as a game that they knew they had to win, rather than some of the games where we've seen teams go out and chase try bonus points. They took a 3 early on, which I'd like to see in this one. Treating the game with the right amount of respect that the Reds need as champions of Super Rugby AU. In this one, liking Zane Sullivan in this one. He injected, and they managed to get a good break out of their own half. He's playing pretty well. This was really a close game that kind of got decided by a yellow card in the end. on this one. The Puangamosa collapsing maul was sent to the bin, and during the next 10 minutes, the Papulihi bashed over from a lineup after a lineup maul was sacked, and Talia also goes over untouched as he took as he took the ball well, and that 10-point lead really just was the difference between these two sides in the end. Being able to capitalise when you had a man up was the key thing.
Oh, listen, I think the Blues went out with a specific game plan, and it was built on some very, very strong defence as well. The Reds just couldn't get across the advantage line, and they just pretty much bullied them at the end of the day. I was reading a stat somewhere where Dalton Papali, Tom Robinson, and GTC Tuati Cowley made over close to 60 tackles and missed none. Crazy, absolutely crazy stat. And it just shows you what a defensive wall they put up. So they just pretty much played how they've played all season. I probably question how much work they've done with their backline play. It's been a bit skittery, but they will pounce on opportunities and they will grind you until you pretty much run out of numbers.
Yeah, my stats are slightly different. I've got they've got here. I've got Calitiotti, 20 tackles, none missed. Tom Robinson, 14 non-missed. Papulihi, 17 missed one. I mean, geez, slacker. Eklund, 12, one missed. Tuapolotu, 10, one missed. Yeah, it's a very good defense of it. Akiriwani missed a few. Hodgman missed 4. TJ Fayani missed 4, but made 13. So there were a few missed tackles in there. But as you say, that's solid. That if you want to try, you're not going to go through the middle of this team with the Blues. You've got to have something more about you than that. As Aaron says, Blues forwards in control for the win in this one, and that's essentially how the Blues are having to play. Because as you say, that back line hasn't, for all the attacking brilliance there, it hasn't really fired this year.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably fair to say that final score probably flattered the Reds a little bit, Paul. Like, there was probably a marginal or line ball, call it what you like, to was it Harry Wilson, off a short ball, and it looked forward, but you rely on the officials to do their thing. And then there was looked like a little bit of a knock on at a ruck, which another Queensland Reds player pounced on. So, and to be honest, apart from that sort of late try that made it a little bit closer, actually don't think they were. I don't know if they were ever in that game as close as the scoreline suggests.
Yeah, possibly. Harry Wilson had a really good game. That's true, and you got to remember that the Reds here. October Wright says that the Reds have a new good fullback in McCready. Now, McCready hadn't even been training with the team. He was playing with the club side, and he got called up at the last minute because of injuries. So when you think that, which team was it? I think the one of the it was the Waratahs, I think, who came over. Also had to call up a prop and flying out who'd never trained with the team before. It shows you that the Australian. We've had injuries over this side, and I guess Love was called up into the Hurricanes team, but on the whole, they've managed to use players. Whilst players have been called up, they've supplemented the squad rather than having to go straight into game on game day. Whereas we're seeing here that some of the Australian squads perhaps running a bit thin at the moment with the number of injuries that they're having, and having to pull in club players who haven't had any time with the team, which is as I say, well done to McCready, but he should never have been put in that situation, to be honest.
Yeah. Injuries definitely starting to bite. But the really good thing about it, at least they're introducing some new guys into this level of rugby. I think they can only get better. Really and truthfully, I can only think they'll get better. I'm hearing there could be about 2 or 3 players coming back from overseas, and if you can insert those players into certain positions, like there's some teams that will have to definitely go to the market. You know, we spoke about the force on Friday, not so much tonight, about how different a team they would be if they had maybe a little bit more of a running playmaker in their team. But from a Blues point of view, listen, they did what they had to do. The Cards of all, after the results of the weekend, I'm sure you'll let us know how the table looks at the end. It seems as though the Cards have fallen into place. But don't take your last game for granted, though.
Yeah, and very impressive fact that Dongunu knocked over 3 with a very good kick late on. And you're like, what? Where did that one come from? Didn't realise he was a kicker, but well done with that with that one. And Sullivan and Lamb both need to have a chat with each other as to who's going to tackle Dongunu, because both of you just looking at him as he catches the crossfield kick was not a pretty look for that last try. But as you say, Blues did what they needed to do, got themselves the win, and got out of Dodge with 24-31. The Reds could have get themselves a sniff of winning it at the end there, but yeah, it wasn't to be, and as you say, probably didn't deserve to be there either. Moving on to Saturday then, and we had the Highlanders versus the Waratahs, or a game of basketball for the first half at least, which was I don't know what it is about the Waratahs, because look, this isn't the first time this has happened this season, where they are they've dragged the opposition into a scoring fest. Is the Waratahs attack really that good that it breaks down defenses? I can't believe it really is, to be honest with you. But somehow they sucker teams into this high scoring thing. Great hands put to the play through and for Collins to score initially. The Waratahs took the 3, but then came back with a try of their own, and then it was try for try. Look, the Highlanders were having some discipline issues, and they were leading 26-20, giving with times for running out of the half. And the Waratahs decided to take 3, and it was like, is that really a good option? Because after kickoff they're going to score back. You're not going to keep them out. So perhaps you should have. Perhaps that was a time to go for the corner or take a tap or whatever, and make sure that time ran out, and that you got in at 6 points down, or hopefully scored some points after the buzzer. Because yes, they knocked over the 3, which normally is the right option, but that just meant that the Highlanders got another opportunity, went over, and suddenly it's a 10-point lead instead at 33-23. So perhaps a time when you shouldn't be scoring there for the Tars.
I agree, Paul. I didn't see this game live, but I made a habit to watch the replay this afternoon, and even though I sort of knew the final score at the time, I'm thinking to myself, man, show some intent, kick to the corner, and even if you don't get it wrong, you're still on attack. You walk into that halftime shed, excuse me, only 6 points down, but to then kick that penalty, go back, and then concede the try to Nareki was just pretty much a punch in the stomach, and it was a punch in the stomach that they never really recovered from. No,
because in the second half they didn't score at all. So we're not quite sure what their oranges were like in the sheds, because it did not work for them. And the Highlanders weren't. I'm not sure they were were ticking on properly either in that second half. But De Groot got himself a couple of tries, and they pulled out to a 59-23 win. But that required 2 late on tries. For most of that second half, it was neither side was really managing to fire. That's the highest ever score for the Landers against the Waratahs. So congratulations to them. I think the Waratahs have picked up a few of those records this year. And Go Willie from Twitter makes a good point here. He had some good players here. That Scott Gregory has been going well now that he's been put into the centres rather than being playing at a position of fullback. Same for Michael Collins, who knocked on right, says how well Michael Collins is playing now. He's leaving, but again, he's been played in this proper position, not fullback in the centres, which is great to see. Caleb Trask, a really good young player who just need more time at this one, and we'll see. We'll see if Michael Collins ends up going and playing for Wales, because he is Welsh qualified.
Yeah, probably just on Michael Collins, I think probably close to his best performance of the season. In this particular game, I thought he was very good. Usually, been highlighting Scott Gregory, and I think Scott Gregory again had a solid enough game. Although probably in one of those tries that was scored by the Waratahs, there was maybe a slight misread in defence. But all in all, I thought definitely the best game from Michael Collins. But I also want to highlight the second to last try that the Highlanders scored, because I thought it was probably one of their better tries, because it was set up. It was off a set piece line out, and it was really so simple. It was just basically first five to Scott Gregory, who hit the midfield, got taken in a good tackle by Lockie Swinton, and they seem to be having I don't know what it is, but a bit of verbals which carried on for the next 20 minutes. But then a switch back to the left-hand side, and they just used a floating runner, which just created a little bit of deception, and just threw the hands out to Nareki, try in the corner. Just such a simple move. There's another side that I wish would come up with a move as simplistic as that. But once again, it just pretty much emphasises how big coaching is when it comes to backline play. Am I being a bit over the top there, Paul?
No, I think it's true. You're probably right. Because look, Kane Hamilton was in this one, and for 72 minutes. He also played more minutes tonight, or in that game, than he's played all season. So well done to him in that one. Aaron Smith actually even quote tweeted my picture of him in the box. That's with his flat cap on, saying how he would stepped into Tony Brown's role of being the flat cap wearer in the box. A must for this Highlanders team. Dr. Wright says, is Billy Harmon close to the All Black selection than Karifi? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Karifi's a wonderful super player. I do not see him as an international player.
Yeah, Billy Harmon, in terms of the picking order, he's in your top maybe 3 or 4 in the country easily. And I think when I last read a stat somewhere where I think his tackle rate is absolutely incredible. And if Michael Collins wasn't close to the man of the match, I think Billy Harmon was probably right up there as well. Definitely the best two. Also, be remiss of us, Paul, not to mention the young replacement halfback. Is it Ascot, who made his debut for the Highlanders? He played, recall, he was the understudy to Kane Hamilton last year in the Otago Mitre 10 Cup team. So congratulations to the young guy on his debut. But there's also a photo doing the rounds on the social network of I think back in 2013 when he was a young boy getting his autograph signed by Aaron Smith. Talk about field old. Talk about field old. It's fantastic. We'll try and get a copy of that picture and maybe pop it up, Paul. But congratulations to the young guy. At the end of the day, real comfortable win for the Highlanders. Happy for Jamino as well, the number 8. He's been good for the Highlanders all season.
Yeah, no, he has been very good. But to be calling him rookie of the season, I think is just because this is his first season at the Highlanders. Look, he is hardly what you call a rookie at this level, being an established international. So, I think it's a bit harsh on some of the other players and their chance of doing that one. The fact that Kane Hamilton came off after 72 minutes, giving Arscott only 8 minutes, shows you that again, made a question mark there around the Highlanders coaching or their trust in Arscott. Maybe could have given him closer to 20 minutes, maybe. I don't know. Just 8 minutes there when the game was already gone. Yeah,
I think they just wanted to make sure the game was pretty much iced.
Yep.
Before they went ahead, and I think once Ben Cherokee Nicholas had touched down, I think let's get. I think we've got this one safely in the bag.
No, he was on for that one. So he came on after the Nariki try
Okay.
at 52-23. But even so, yeah, at that point it was well gone already. So look, the Hurricanes. The Waratahs. Look, they're playing with more intent. They're growing, but they are essentially a very young, inexperienced team that's been put together at the last minute, and it's shown all the way through Super Rugby this year, both Super Rugby AU and Super Rugby Aotearoa. Look, the problem isn't with the coaches. The problem is with the senior office who weren't willing to pay the money to keep the players they needed to keep, essentially, and that's been their problem. We followed that over to Canberra to the Brumbies' first home game of the tournament, which is just nuts. We're into round 4 now, and the Brumbies get their first home game. So anyone who's kind of like who think I've been harping on badly about how the Australian side's been mistreated by the schedule, this really shows it. To be honest with you, the Brumbies came out with a nice scrum half sneak. I think we had quite a few scrum half sneaks this weekend off the bottom of rucks to score the points. That was evened up by the third line-out maul of the game. The Hurricanes line-out maul really not functioning great, but after 3 attempts, eventually got the try as Coles broke off and got over. Karifi, shoulders to the head, and people say, "Oh, but the other player was dropping." Maybe he was, but Karifi's arm was down by his side. He was wrapping with one arm, but the shoulder that hit, that arm was nicely tucked away, and you got to wrap with both arms, really. So he was a little bit lucky to me for the on that one that they gave him. Oh yes, he's rapping. Yeah, well yes, kind of. But the Hurricanes, to their credit, did very well during that 10 minutes. Didn't allow the Brumbies to score and took a 7-10 lead in at half time in this one. Geordie then, for some reason, changed boots at half time and came out in the second half with his non-kicking boots on and missed 3 penalties in this one as the Brumbies got the only score of the second half, which was an unconverted try to win the game 12-10. Ardie Surveyor, although they got over the line, only for it to be called back for an Ardie Surveyor knock-on that was, as I say, one of those ones that would only be looked at and called if there's a try on the line. And the Canes, to their credit, really did up the tempo in that final 10 minutes, but just couldn't get the points to see them home steam.
Oh, you pretty much hit it on the head, but I got to mention that Iki Tau try. There was some great work from Nick White in the lead up to that try, and just to get the pass off. But once again, there was a tackle that needed to be made by, I think it might have been Ruben Love. He misses the tackle, and it was quite key in the biggest scheme of things. Even though Nick White missed that conversion, it was enough just to give them that 2-point lead. And for the Hurricanes, it's a game to look at those missed opportunities, those kicks, especially the second one and the very last one that Geordie Barrett missed. Usually that's the sort of kick he pretty much eats for breakfast. I haven't seen all the game. I've had to rely on the highlights, and obviously the big talking point is the knock-on. And listen, it clearly was a knock-on to me. So there's no real controversy in there. I suppose at the end of the day, when you've had that many opportunities, there's nobody else to blame but yourselves.
Yeah, and look, that Ikitau try, why didn't he go closer to the posts? He runs over, dives over, and there's no one near him. He could go closer. Now, Stephen, here's a question for you. Did him not? Did that missed conversion actually help the Brumbies to win this game? Because with a 2-point lead, the Hurricanes knew a penalty would win it. Now, if the Brumbies had been 4 points up, then the Hurricanes probably would not have attempted those last 2 penalties at goal, and would have gone for the try. So one of those ones where yes, whilst it looked like a mistake, well, it was a mistake. Let's be blunt; it was the wrong thing to do. May have saved them.
It's like I think going back to that final kick, and like I say, I only really watched the highlights. But when you've missed your first one in the first three minutes of the second half, then you've missed another one from a longer range. But we know that distance is not an issue for Geordie Barrett.
Yep.
I just wonder by the time he got to that third one, if he pretty much got the yips, because it almost seemed to me he rushed it. You know, to me there was a little bit of a difference in terms of his setup. Everything was rushed. It was really mixed. His cadence is what I'm trying to say. He's got
Yep.
all these steps, and he just seemed to rush it. But you are probably right. If they need, like any team, and given that they had scored earlier from a line out throw, would have put a bit of pressure on the thrower, no doubt. But yeah, I guess we'll never know. But yeah, there were some pretty sad images of him sitting in the dressing room on his own in the corner with head in hands. So I think it was pretty much, they probably know the game is up. That loss has probably pretty much resigned them as also rans for the 2021 season.
Now, look, we shouldn't be judging Geordie Barrett on this one game as far as this season goes. He has carried this Hurricanes team at times this year, and really has upped his game. So yeah, he should not be sat in the corner on his own like that with his head in his hands. His teammates need to get around him, because he should. Yeah, he's not the man to blame for how for wherever the Hurricanes finish this season. Go Willie on Twitter says, everyone in Canterbury will be banging their house down for Will Jordan being selected ahead of Geordie. Missed twice, Barrett. Look, when it comes to the All Blacks, though, he won't have to kick, because we'll have Rich Mo'unga or Beauden Barrett at 10. So it's not he isn't going to be selected for his kicking. He's going to be selected for his all-round fullback play, which has been superb for a lot of this season.
I think you know, I can kind of understand where Go Willie is coming from. You know, we certainly just want to say we're not being quick to jump on Will Jordan's back or anybody else's back, but you know, sometimes when you see a player go to that next level, that test level, there's so many little tick boxes, and sometimes you know, the media supporters can get really super excited about what a player is doing, but sometimes that one thing that he's doing well, we know what he's good at. He's capable of taking opportunities, scoring try. But international rugby is a place that you need an all-round game. It's as simple as that. You've got to be pretty much the full package. You know, so it's just, to me, for somebody like Will Jordan, for him, it's something to work on, and I think for the likes of Geordie Barrett, I think in the moment he got the yips. He was down on confidence. Could he? Because he'd actually missed a couple. And no, he can't blame himself for that.
No. I think Jordan is a couple of years away from being, I say, a bit like Geordie Barrett a couple of years ago. Jordan needs a couple of years of rugby. He'll be in the All Black squad. He just wouldn't be my first choice 15. We finished off today with the Chiefs versus the Rebels. Wow, will the Chiefs actually have two locks to finish the season with? Because Josh Lord, I unfortunately missed the first couple of minutes of this game, so I missed his instant where he had to go off for the blood bin and the HIA, which he failed. But when they looked at him in the second half on the sideline, he had a mighty black eye. His eye was closed, and it did not look good. So I'm expecting Josh Law probably not to be available next weekend, with Arcoy already out with some sort of neck injury. Boy, it's the lock stocks are pretty low for the Chiefs.
But they are, Paul. I know I was basically reading somewhere where he actually seemed to have collected a boot to the face. So yeah, apparently got hurt in the first few minutes. looked like an accidental boot to the face. So yeah, just really bad luck for him, and he did go down in a hip as well. I think also Tupuvai at stages during the game went down as well. I think he'd dinged his shoulder. So yeah, they will definitely need to get some players from somewhere, whether they call a couple across from New Zealand or just basically rely on what they've got in their squad. Maybe having to push maybe somebody like Sawakula into lock.
Maybe so. I mean, Brown also spent some time down at the end who'd come on as a replacement lock, but he's more a 6. They also have Kapolai out there as well. So look, it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. That first try that was not given for the Chiefs, there's no way there was obstruction. Oh, here we go. So yes.
I'm gonna disagree with you, Go Willie, because, and once again, I don't want to jump ahead, but late in the game, the Rebels scored a very similar try, and the referee went to the TMO and found, and to me, it looked very much the same at the time. I thought if they'd awarded that try, then you've got a problem. Your comment is very much correct, but in the scheme of things, listen, both tries were ruled out, and that's all you can ask for is consistency.
Yeah, we had consistency within the game at the very least. Now, would they have been disallowed on other nights? Who knows? But we had consistency in the game for this one. In both cases, the dummy runner runs forward and then basically stands still to be a nice whereas if they kept moving, they get out the way, and the players then have their then the defending player has the opportunity to either make or miss the tackle. But because they don't keep moving, that isn't allowed and doesn't happen. So look, they did it both ways, so that's fine by me. We had a couple of tries that were held up. This one, and we had the goal line dropouts, which I know you're not a fan of. I think you think that the attacking team needs to get more of an advantage for that. And in previous weeks where I've seen kicks perhaps not go so long and they've been charged back a long way, I've thought they actually get quite a good advantage from those goal line dropouts. But this evening there wasn't that much of an advantage. And I think I'm starting to come around to your view of this one, that actually the goal line dropout doesn't give enough advantage to the team that's got held up.
No, I don't think it doesn't. I'm actually still trying to find a reason in my head to why they actually tread that path.
Oh, basically it's been done because to speed up the game and have less time lost to scrums is the idea.
Well, we might as well just not have big grunters in the front row and just have a league scrum. Just to hold it. But do we really want to go there? No, we still, you know what, it just takes, we've always believed this is the game for every size. And I still want to see the big, strong scrummaging props. I just want to see contests. Even yesterday I commentated a trial game, and whilst the game wasn't a great game, one good thing about it, boy, we had good scrum contests. And when I spoke to one of the coaches of this particular provincial team, he was wrapped with the contests because you actually had scrums that were locked together, and you could just see them pushing. Nobody would move. And it is a source of weapon. If you have got a scrum, you should be rewarded.
Yeah, Nocturnal Right says, look, the game flows better with goal line dropout. Selfish forwards did this to themselves over scrums. Look,
Nocturnal, did you play in the backs? You must
of course he did. Absolutely. Now, look, Go Willie, was that the North and North-South game? Yes, it was. I can tell you that without. But when you're looking at the problem is that teams, every single scrum now, one of the players will take a knee, and the water boys will come on, and we just take an age for it to happen. So to a certain degree, Nocturnal Rights is correct. If forwards didn't take so long to set scrums, it wouldn't be a problem. I think we just ban water boys, and not to actually use a blind side before moving to the left wing. There we go. But we just ban water boys coming on for prior to scrums, and medics can come on, but medics aren't allowed to carry water bottles. So let's just try and in a way to try and speed things up, because we just lose so much time to them taking a rest, getting themselves fully prepared, doing what a goal kicker does before kicking. But we don't want to do that for every single scrum. Sorry, guys.
I'm sure, Nocturnal, you played blindside, but you spent most of your time out on the wing.
Now, go Willie. I'm afraid I think you've got your one-eyed glasses on here. It just seems that every time a New Zealand team scores in Oz, all tries are checked. The majority of Aussie tries are given off the bat. No. I'm sorry. They do check pretty much all of them. Look, Aaron says, refs should take control, and we'd love refs to take control of games a lot more. Turn around to players and go, look, you can ask me why I've given something, but you can't shout at me to give you something. The only words you're allowed to say is, why did you give that, sir? Not, shouldn't that guy get a yellow card, sir? No, that's not what we should be asking. Just ask, why did you give that, if you don't understand? Otherwise, get on with the game and stop talking to the refs and waving your hands around.
Paul, I must admit, after 19 minutes, I actually thought this game was going to be a romp, because I pretty much put on I think our rugby chat. Oh my God! I hope this is not a one-sided. But then again, it was almost like somebody decided to have a halftime break during the first half, because that's what it actually felt like. Because all of a sudden,
it was a half of two halves.
It was definitely a half of two halves. It was almost like the Rebels, who basically were getting out physicaled, out scrummed, couldn't we're just making such basic errors, couldn't win their lineouts, would just drop passes. And I thought, man, if this is a theme, if this is a continuous theme, this is gonna be a thumping. And it's almost like they did the full reversal, because all of a sudden you saw a dominant scrum from the Melbourne Rebels, which may have been a byproduct of the injuries to the locks. Whether that's had anything to do with it, I don't know. But it was almost like they had swapped jerseys. That's how dominant they were. And all of a sudden, you saw the Rebels getting a bit of ball, holding a bit of ball, getting a little bit of getting a nice couple of bounces. I think it might have been the second try from a kick ahead. There was a bounce, and before you know it, wow, they're well back in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that first try for the Chiefs involved the Rebels being too adventurous. A missed four players pass hit the grass, and so Akula picked it up and they scored. Anson Brown showing that he is in some of his finest form of his life at the moment, scoring a couple of tries. And yeah, you're right, 19-0 after 24 minutes, only for the game to be 19-all at half time with a pushover try. I luckily came into the group as it was half time and said, "Hey, look, they're back in it." And you were like, "Yeah, okay, Paul, but yeah, well done with 2020 vision. Thank you very much." In the second half, look, the Chiefs came out, whilst the Rebels sort of kept themselves just about in touch, they never got close enough that they actually thought they were going to win the game. The Chiefs got a couple of a couple of scores. Tia scored out wide. After the Chiefs got the upper hand at the scrum time, and then the Rebels just scrambling from the line out. The scrum defence thinking, "Oh yes, they've got this. They've just about got this under control." But the Chiefs' basic skills under pressure to get the ball out in front of a player, not throwing balls behind players, not throwing balls on the grass, meant that they kept the momentum forward, and they got the try. That was just really good, not simple skills, basic skills done very well under pressure.
And I was also going to say, probably the best game I've seen from Naisarani this year. the number 8, scored a couple of tries in that first half, and I just thought he was a colossus. He just gave them so much go forward, and of course there was Elof who was basically getting his proverbial handed to him at scrum time. All of a sudden he came into play and was getting over the advantage line and getting some good runs in, and all of a sudden the Rebels start getting quick ball, and boy, it's amazing what sort of momentum you can gain from that.
You can look at 31-26. You're just 5 points down. You're smack bang in front of the posts. They don't take the 3. They take a tap and go and get held up over the line. And you're like, yeah, guys, you should have taken the 3 at that point. Made it a 2-point game. Because in the end, they obviously had that disallowed try, but the Chiefs stretched it out to a 10-point lead. Both sides then going for the bonus point. The Chiefs trying to get that try bonus point. Three more tries. The Rebels trying to get the losing bonus point. So we had plenty of extra time, but eventually got knocked on, and neither of them managed to do it in the end. And the Chiefs got themselves home.
Yeah. Listen, I think they'd be, like you say, I think they'd be pretty happy to take the win, but really at the end of the day, and you'll get to the table at the moment. I think maybe even for them a little bit too much to do to make those finals.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As soon as they lost the game, you kind of like, that's it. They're out of the final. So the table has the Blues at the top on 19 points with a points difference of 109. Just trying to remember who they've got to play next weekend. Actually, I'll just bring it up.
Force.
So they've got the Force next weekend, which you've got to say looks is a very winnable game, especially as that is in Eden Park. So you've got to say the Blues on track at the moment to make that final. In second place, we have the Highlanders on 18 points with 82 plus 82 points difference. They have to go to the Brumbies, so over in Canberra. So a tough final game for the Highlanders there. But I
think they're more than capable, though. They gave. I think they've got more depth than, say, for example, what we saw with the Highlanders last night. I think they'll be better at set piece. I think they'll be more competitive at breakdown as well. And when you got some wily heads like Ash Dixon and Aaron Smith, Michael Collins playing some really good rugby at the moment, Nareki on fire. Hopefully, whatever knock he took today not today, but last night isn't too bad. I think they're more than a shot. There's so much for them to play for. They ride out of town with 5 points, and if they can keep their aggregate reasonably high, will it come down to four? It comes down to 4 it gets at the end of the day, Paul.
That's what it looks like it might do. Stephen's giving you a full preview for next week, so I won't bother the preview show this week. It'll be all good. In third place, we've got the Crusaders also on 18 points with plus 71. So they're 11 points difference less than the Highlanders. The Crusaders have the travel to Melbourne to play the Rebels, or travel to Sydney to play the Rebels. We'll have to wait and see. Probably Sydney, you'd have to think, but it might be if they open up the travel restrictions, then they'll probably go play in Melbourne. The important thing for the Crusaders is that the Highlanders play on Friday night, but the Crusaders play on Saturday. So they will know what they have to do, whereas the Highlanders just have to go as big as they can. So yet again, the schedule works out just about perfectly for the Crusaders there on this one. Isn't that a coincidence?
Oh, actually, if we wait about 30 seconds, Aaron, come on, Aaron, come on, get that last message in.
In fourth place, we've got the Hurricanes on 16 points on plus 73. So 2 points difference better than the Crusaders. But look, you got to think that both the Crusaders and Highlanders good chances of getting those. At least one of them will get a try bonus point, which means the Hurricanes finishing on 21 points. It just won't be enough for them. Fifth place, we've got the Chiefs on 14. So yes, they're well and truly out of it. The Hurricanes have got the Reds next weekend as well, at home though, which is important for them. Finally, the Chiefs in fifth place on 14 points. They have the Waratahs in Sydney in the last game of the round, but that's a bit of a dead rubber. Talking about more to play for the Highlanders against the Brumbies. Well, the Brumbies and the Queensland Reds both on 5 points, folks. So the Brumbies currently have the better points difference than the Reds. There is still bragging rights as to the best team in Australia up for grabs between those two. The Western Force on 1 point could snag it, because if they get a try bonus point win against the Crusaders, don't laugh, everybody. And then the Western Force could climb up into sixth place and be the best Aussie side. Melbourne Rebels and in ninth with the Stars in 10th. Neither of those teams have got any points yet so far in this competition. One of the interesting things, though, is that the Waratahs have got officially the best attack in Australia, with having scored 120 points. Unfortunately, which is more than any of the other Australian teams. Unfortunately, they've also allowed 225 points, which is 62 points worse than the next worst defence.
I think when they were given instructions, they were told, "I think your best form of attack is going to be your defence." Or maybe
best form of defence attack, yes. So over the 4 games so far, they've allowed 34 tries.
Wow.
And scored 15. With that one. Go Williams said, "Be careful, you'd be tarred and feathered for saying that in Canterbury." I think he's referring to my comment there that the Force might be the Crusaders to the try bonus point.
No, that's the one. Won't be the Force. You're thinking of the Rebels, because they had their bite.
The Rebels. Yeah, the Rebels. Yeah. Yes, I can't see the Rebels beating the. The Western Force would have to beat the Blues with a try bonus point to become the best team in Super Rugby, the best Australian team in the competition.
If that happens,
I can't see the Blues forwards allowing it. I can see the Blues back allowing it to happen, but the Blues forwards won't allow it to happen.
No, that would be an upset of absolutely epic proportions.
So just running through them, we've got the Hurricanes versus the Reds at 7 o'clock on Friday, followed by the Brumbies versus the Highlanders at 9:45. This is all New Zealand time, folks. Saturday, triple header, 4:35. We have the Rebels versus the Crusaders. COVID depending, obviously, on that one in particular. Everything in life is COVID depending, but that one is the most likely to move. We then go to Eden Park for the Blues versus the Force at 7 p.m. And finally, the Waratahs versus the Chiefs at 9:45 next Saturday. And Dr. Wright said the Crusaders coach will be livid. Training might be a bit intense this week. Well, yes, there's probably an element of that as well. But thank you very much, Stephen, for joining me. Don't forget, folks, to join us on Tuesday at 8 p.m, where Stephen will tell us all about the naughty goings on of ex-All Blacks who have drunk too much at the Northland Centennial dinner, and what other things were going on there. What goes on tour stays on Facebook.
Stays on tour. Yep, you got it.
Stays on Facebook, as they say. I hope you've all had a wonderful weekend of rugby, folks. Thank you very much for joining me, Stephen, and catch you all later.